Hey, welcome back guys to another video. Today we're going to see the winning ad account structure to scale your paid social ads video. Obviously this is going to be very focused on Meta, but this pretty much applies to TikTok with slight nuances. But yeah, this is the exact account structure I found after spending more than 50 million just on Meta alone. And I'm currently overseeing more than 6-7 million, and I'm advising do a bit more than that. But yeah, this is going to be the winning one. This is what you need basically to scale to 1 million a month, if not more. And obviously, there are different nuances to that. That will be dependent on your business. Obviously, if you're a multi-product business or you advertise in multiple countries, this setup is obviously slightly different. But I'm gonna go pretty much everything here. If you have any questions, just let me know. And without further ado, let's actually dive into it. I'm gonna go into the exact ad account structure as well as I'm going through it, so you can obviously see that in place. But yeah, first of all, starting with credit testing. Obviously, we kind of briefly mentioned that on the previous video, more specific how I think about credit testing. But my bread and butter will be an ABO creative testing campaign. And the main thing and the goal here is to identify winning angles and creatives to scale. The main thing here is to find new creative that are going to be supporting our core angles and will basically help us scale further. Volume is key on 2025, and I think in the future even more on those paid social platforms, just because they are basically the creative is doing all the targeting. I was recently in a Meta seminar basically, and they told that more than 50%, I think that they mentioned something like 57% of the targeting is happening through the creative. Super important that we have a robust creative testing winning system there, so we can obviously get new creatives that are winners and also iterate on those and that actually work and those that didn't work. Same here. So what we're actually going to be testing here, again, we're going to test angles, concepts, creators, styles of assets, formats, variations. Main thing here is super important that we have is hypothesis behind our testing, because this will basically allow us to make progress on each one. Then in terms of ABO, CBO, and again, I currently kind of encourage you to see the previous video about creative testing, because it's going to be much more in depth. But basically, I prefer ABO just because I have control of the budget, and each new test, obviously, its own unique kind of variable that I'm testing. And the main thing here is ABO, like CBO, can be trick to scale or at least get meaningful data, just because Meta can favor one or two angles or ad sets rather, and have all the budget and and basically just because of some engagement metrics, like very strong kind of engagement on the platform itself with click-through rate, watch rates, and all this kind of stuff. And also I like to increase vertically on each ad group to scale when those winning ads, basically all these ad set is actually winning, to scale vertically, which can be very tricky when you have a CBO campaign, because obviously you don't have control on each ad set, because I only want to basically scale one specific ad set. And again, the other thing here, the goal is not really to fight against each other, or in terms of like the ad set setup, it's mostly to find new winner support angles. I don't mind if, like, let's say asset one has like 2.5 ROAS and angle two has 2. If they're both profitable and they add to my whole kind of overall system and kind of arsenal of creatives, that's fine. Again, some important notes here. I only run my test on a click-based attribution. I highly recommend you do so. It's much more incremental and close to the revenue on Shopify. But also, if you like, the only way that I would think focusing on a or adding that view through conversion element will be only on a small budget that you probably want to get as much data as possible. But again, make sure it's not like more than 20 or 30% of your sales coming from view through kind of attribution, because obviously Meta will just over-report it, so it doesn't really make sense. Again, that's more of a close-up shot of how I'm thinking about and I'm structuring the creative. As you can see here, we have ad set one, this is an ABO campaign, ad set one, angle one, multiple different creatives here. Obviously, they are testing against each other. And we have ad set two, which basically is I'm testing a different concept here, different hook on the aspect them concept, and number three is the creator, which again I'm testing 3 different hooks on that. But again, that's how I structure my test. Each unique ad set, its own creative. So when you find a winning ad, and by winning ad I mean something that has, at least has 10 conversions minimum at CPA target, I promote it into an AC plus campaign. So this is how scaling looks like. So the goal here is to scale spend and expand the reach behind winning ads basically and winning elements at an efficient rate always. Now, this will look like some like this. We'll have all the winners here and just put them into an AAC plus campaign. Now, big things to mention here. Make sure you have only winning ads. I see this mistake all the time. Just make sure you just have only winning ads here. And I highly recommend having a high starting budget and then adjusting as it goes. So probably like 5 times your CPA or something, especially if you just keep kicking this off initially. The other very important thing to mention here is you need to have a limited amount of budget going into remarketing purposes. So put 0 to 10% max on existing customers, so you can always prospecting, and also make sure you have relevant exclusions on the back end. And it's very easy to kind of set up here. I'm basically referring about this option here. Make sure it's like 0 to 10, depending on obviously your business, and then make sure you have defined existing customers so you don't have any kind of problems here. But yeah. Now, if you other stuff, be careful of reels and catalog campaigns or ads here. That's a mistake. So if you have obviously just 9x16 versions or just reels, AC doesn't. You can't really do. You can't really select the manual placement. So it can be very funny how TikTok and how Meta can actually deliver your ad. So make sure you have a different AC just for reels, or in my opinion, just have a manual sales campaign with obviously optimizing just for that specific placement. And the same with catalog. For some reason, obviously, not some reason, but probably it's just Meta thinks it can be very good at dynamically targeting people. It will spend all the money behind those catalog ads. So I highly recommend having a separate AC plus for just catalog if you have minimum budget behind it. But that's another thing. Again, just keep your eye on the budget the distribution piece here, because Meta will typically deliver all the spend into one two ads here. Okay, around 1 day click on 7 day click, the same applies. And really assess if really efficiency is your main goal, I highly recommend adding a cost cap here based on your CPA target basically, so you can be efficient. But that's the main thing in terms of like an AC plus campaign. And then what I like to do is I like to pepper in some manual bidding campaign, which is probably an ABO, obviously. And the goal is to find delivery at an efficient cap test in $5 increments initially. So let's say our CPA target is $50. I would test 55, 45, and then I adjust from there, or like 60, 65 again, just to see where I get delivery and it's very efficient and it's profitable for my end. So the manual bidding campaign, make sure you use ABO again, a winning audience combination with the winning creatives, and then you're just testing the cap here, as you can see here. And then once you find the winner, you can just basically scale that and turn off the ones that don't really work. And then the other thing that you can do is walk down the cap and test in one of the increments. For example, let's say that 50 was our winning ad, our winning cost cap. I'll probably test 51 and 49 as well. So I can always have the best results here. And that's pretty much it. In terms of like the manual bidding, this is great for unlocking further efficiency on key sales periods or testing, or scaling in a very efficient way, just because you have that cost control. I don't recommend running the whole account in cost cap unless you're in a very early stages, just because it's very inefficient way and a very inconsistent, not inefficient, I'm sorry, it's very inconsistent in some ways to get delivery and get consistent revenue. But again, that's highly dependent on your business. Doesn't mean that I haven't run accounts that just on cost cap completely. But again, just a big caveat, I like to have both maximum delivery and manual billing. But the most important thing behind those kind of comments I just made is the creative piece. If you have good creative that is winning, you can always scale on both optimization goals. And then the other piece that I have from a kind of structure perspective, I like to use some retargeting. A lot of people don't like to use it. I still think it's very effective if you do this correctly and you actually have some thought behind it. So I like to have two different campaigns basically, depending on your goal and your business. The one is a DPA or dynamic product marketing campaign that work very well for businesses that have a wide range of SKUs, so you have like thousands of SKUs, that work very well because obviously it dynamically leverages all your SKUs. So DPA, make sure you use a time lag from GA. So time lag basically it's just a report on your Google Analytics, which shows basically how what's the kind of the time frame that people buy, and that can actually be a great indication to selecting the exact time frame, because obviously you can select last 14 days, last 30 days here. Typically it's like last 14 to 30 days. And then obviously you have the catalog retargeting. You can play around with some frames. You can play around with some if other stuff like specific product sets. But you shouldn't just have all products, for example, or your highest AOV products. And then you have the more specific regular OG kind of retargeting. I like to use more broad stack audiences, like 90-day stack retargeting audience of website visitors, social engagers, add to cart, view content, all this kind of stuff, but more broad, not just like last 30 days, probably like last 90. That's just the reason because these pixel audiences are like very impacted from iOS 14 and all these kind of tracking updates anyway. So initially probably would be more middle funnel and bottom funnel will be stacked in my opinion, just to get out of learning phase, and then I'll try to separate those in two different ad sets. Obviously, the main thing here is to have specific messaging and creative, and don't use the same stuff as top of funnel, or at least maybe your top performing ads here. But have some thought behind your retargeting. Obviously, be contextual, so use demonstration, and maybe that's a UGC, or maybe that's maybe a quick kind of static that shows a specific thing about your product, or a testimonial, or a before after shot, just so you can showcase and you can capture those middle funnel people and make them to buy. From a bottom funnel perspective, use any kind of code you have, any offer that you have, maybe some social proof or any kind of PR that you have, and then a testimonial again would be great. So again, that's pretty much it from a kind of overall perspective. That's how I basically structure my accounts. I've scaled accounts to like more than 30 to 40K a day just with this setup. Obviously, again, you can see how this can be a bit more complex or add a few more campaigns, but at its purest form, you shouldn't need anything else than this to actually scale. Hope you really enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know.